Andrew Carlson.
All right.
In your honor, Mr. Festi, Jonathan Festi, on behalf of Mr. Carlson, Mr. Walker has presented an offer. I had opportunity to meet with Mr. Carlson to review a statement of defendant on plea of guilty, to also review with him a plea offer. The defendant understands his constitutional rights. I've also advised him the nature of this change of plea. He enters this as Alfred. He fully understands, though, the consequences that stem from that. And I want to cite one thing, one detail I omitted. My client's aware of this. Given the nature of this offense for which he's expected to plead guilty when you speak with him, he would be limited or would be restrained from getting federal student loans because this is a drug-related charge. But we've asked the court to accept this today. He and I have met together much regarding this case.
All right. I know that you've addressed that to Judge Edwards.
Oh, excuse me.
That's okay.
Forgive me.
We're
I know he had called it. Forgive me, Your Honor.
That's okay. We're
Alternating.
So,
Judge, do you need me to move the documents? I see there's a plea agreement in Judge Edwards's folder. I don't want both of us to try to do it at the same time.
no, I have both. Just give me 1 second here. All right, so this is 21-1-482-14 State versus Andrew Carlson. Mr. Carlson, I understand that you intend to plead guilty in this case, so there's some things I need to go over with you. Can you tell me what is your age?
37.
And what is the last grade you completed in school?
I completed some college.
And do you read and write well in the English language?
I do.
And did you have a sufficient amount of time to go over the statement of defendant on plea of guilty and the proposed plea agreement with Mr. Festi?
Yes.
Do you think that you need any more time before you go forward with your plea?
No.
All right, on the first page, going to the second page on the plea, there are some important rights. Have you gone over all of those rights with Mr. Festi?
Yes, I have.
So those include the right to a speedy and a public trial by an impartial jury in Grace Harbor County, the right to remain silent before and during trial, and the right to refuse to testify against yourself.
Yes.
The right at trial to hear and question witnesses who testify against you, the right at trial to testify and to have witnesses testify on your behalf. Those witnesses could be made to appear at no expense to you. The right to be presumed innocent until the state proves the charge beyond a reasonable doubt or you enter a plea of guilty. And the right to appeal a finding of guilt after trial. Do you understand all of those rights?
Yes, I do.
And do you understand that by entering a plea of guilty, you're giving up all of those rights?
Yes.
So it's my understanding that in exchange for your plea to the more serious charges, counts 2 and 3, the state is going to dismiss count 1, and that you would have an offender score of 1 on each of those counts. Do you understand what an offender score is and how that's used to determine your sentence?
Yes.
So counts 2 and 3 are each a Class B felony, meaning the maximum punishment is 10 years in prison and or a $20,000 fine. However, the sentencing range in this case would be 6 to 12 months on each count to run concurrently, meaning at the same time, and the court would have to sentence you within that range of 6 to 12 months. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
And do you understand that because this is a felony, there are certain rights that you give up, including the right to vote and the right to have under your possession, control, or ownership any firearm?
Yes.
And that those rights are forfeited until and unless a court restores them to you. Do you understand that?
Yes.
It's my understanding that the state is going to recommend a sentence at the top of the standard range, 12 months. But do you understand the court could sentence you anywhere in that standard range of 6 to 12 months and you'd have no right to appeal?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Carlson, instead of making a factual statement, you've stated that you do believe that the state has sufficient evidence to prove this case at trial, and that in order to take advantage of the plea agreement, you want to enter a plea of guilty to counts 2 and 3. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Festi, do you agree that there is an adequate factual basis to support the plea if the state's evidence were to be believed by a jury at trial?
Yes, we thoroughly reviewed the discovery provided in this matter. Yes.
Mr. Carlson, besides the recommendation of the state that is that is laid out in the plea agreement, has anyone threatened you or made any promises to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
And are you making this plea freely and voluntarily?
Yes, I am.
And so based on that, how do you plead in this case to count 2, endangerment with a controlled substance?
Guilty.
And how do you plead to count 3, endangerment with a controlled substance?
Guilty.
Mr. Walker, is there anything else the court needs to address?
Not at this time.
Mr. Festi, anything else you want me to go over with your client?
No, Your Honor, this has been a very careful process between my client and I to come to this decision today.
All right, based on the representations of counsel and the paperwork before me, which, let's see. So I will take the plea agreement. It is consistent with the interests of justice and prosecutorial standards. Based on what is before me, I do find that there is a factual basis for the plea, that the defendant is making this plea in a knowing, intelligent, and voluntary manner, and he is in fact guilty of the charges. All other dates will be stricken. Mr. Festi, when do you wish to address sentencing in this matter?
I would certainly, defer in part to my colleague, Mr. Walker. Perhaps we could do it as soon as 2 weeks. I'll let Mr. Walker have input if he has any different thoughts.
2 weeks is fine with the state.
Okay.
All right, then sentencing will be March 28th at 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's all for you today, Mr. Carlson.
Very good. Your
Thank
Honor.
you.
Thank you.